You're listening to the Thriving Mindfully podcast. I'm Ananda Leeke, your Thriving Mindfully coach and podcast host. I'm also an artist, an author, a human design doula, and an interfaith reverend. The Thriving Mindfully podcast is a heart-centered, digital sacred space that I created to inspire and empower you to be present, well, and the real you. Tune into the latest conversation I've been having with myself and others about nurturing, transforming, and celebrating our lives, relationships, and career. Well, I am really excited about today's guest. This is a blessing, especially since we're recording on the spring equinox in 2023, March 20th. I have the pleasure of introducing you to, you may already know Jamari. I already let the name out. Jamari Michael White. Jamari is the founder and soul surgeon. That's right. I said soul, S-O-U-L, surgeon of Soul Stewards. How are you, Jamari?
I am really excited to be here with you, Ananda, and looking forward to this conversation on this very special first day of spring.
Yeah. So everybody, Jamari and I have been working together on my ancestral healing of my lineages. And so it's been an amazing experience. There really are no words. I met Jamari last March, and it has been an incredible experience. The reason why I wanted to have Jamari on in the first month of the new astrological new year, if you celebrate that, or spring, it's new beginnings, because I think before we start anything in our lives, we need to know that we can seek support anytime we take action. And that's what we're talking about, in addition to whatever else comes up during the conversation. We're talking about take action to serve through your living with ancestral medicine. That's a lot of words, and we're going to dig into it. But first, I want Jamari to share who you are and how do you share your gifts with the universe?
Yeah, thanks, Ananda. So I have been serving communities in lots of capacities for about 15 years now. It's wild to say because I'm not old. Don't feel old, ain't old. But it's been about 13, 15 years because I started really early. I knew really early in life that I wanted to be a servant to the world. And so hit the ground running right out the gate. And so started out my career as actually a social worker and mental health therapist, but struggled to find my footing in sort of Western psychology and these sort of colonized frameworks for understanding people. And so left that work, spent about a year this is a short version, spent about a year in meditation and prayer. And during that time period, I started to hear the voices of my ancestors, which is not something that I was not somebody who was into all that stuff. Growing up or prior to that experience was not something I even knew I had the capacity to experience. But I began to listen, and their voices began to guide me to certain people, places, experiences that deepened my own spiritual practice and led me to experiencing and discovering it being revealed to me my different spiritual gifts and abilities. And so one of the ways that I share what I do and my gifts with the world is through ancestral healing. So I run a practice called Black Ancestral Healing, where I support many amazing folks like yourself to connect with their ancestors and heal unwellness and intergenerational trauma. And then also through Soul Stewards, where I work with families and parents and communities on caring for the souls of their children and really healing the spiritual dis-ease and illness that we are all experiencing here, but particularly our young people are being impacted by. We really need to support them because they're coming here full force with power, solutions, innovation, and they're the seeds that are going to birth this new happening, as with the spring that we'll all experience. So that's the short version of who I be and what I do.
You tell people who may be so amazed by you in this moment and they want to know the website and where they can find you online.
Yeah. So you can check out Soul Stewards at soulstewards.org, www.soulstewards.org. And then you can also check me out at blackancestralhealing.com. You can actually Google Black Ancestral Healing, and apparently I'm the first thing that pops up, which was all Spirit's doing. I don't know nothing about SEO. So, well, when you got Spirit, you don't need SEO.
And we're gonna move into that.
Yeah.
Social media and sacred media, everybody. So before we do that, can you tell folks, because one of the things that during the early days of the pandemic, because some of us say we are still in a pandemic sorts.
Yeah.
3 years ago, one of the things that I noticed online, since I was spending more time online, like a lot of us, is this phrase ancestral medicine. And what is ancestral medicine? What is ancestral healing? And are they the same?
Yeah, well, some people I would say use them interchangeably. So I really would say it depends on who you're asking the question of. Personally, I often, when I talk about the work that you and I particularly did and the process that I walk folks through to connect with their ancestors and heal unwellness in the line, I usually talk about that process as ancestral healing. It's the process by which our ancestors bring forward healing into the lineage and into our lives. But I usually will I'll use the phrase ancestral medicine specifically to talk about the technologies, the way by which the ancestors actually do that. And that's specific to each ancestral lineage. So our ancestral medicine is not going to be the same. My ancestral medicine is not the same as Ananda's ancestral medicine because our ancestors are different. There might be some similarities or some overlap, but the medicine my people need are different from the medicine other people's need. So we're all walking through, if we're going through this work of ancestral healing, a process that will be healing, but the medicine of our people that they bring to that process is unique. And that's what I think of when I talk about ancestral medicine in particular.
What are some of the reasons people come to you for ancestral healing?
There's so many, but usually the main focus is there's something that they're experiencing in their own life, some type of block or challenge that usually they've worked on in like therapy or some other type of healing space, and they're still finding a challenge with it, really moving through it. And sometimes people do have a sense that they think it's ancestral, and they have a sense that there's some ancestral piece they need to address. And sometimes they don't. They just know that they've done all the things you're supposed to do to heal, and they're still at this block, at this wound. And that's very common for folks. And even how I first sort of began to get into this work was I had a mentor, and I was struggling with some really just recurring self-deprecating thoughts. And I had done all the things, and I went to my mentor, and I finally said, look, I don't know why I can't get a handle on these thoughts. Like, I have been doing the work, and I can't. And she said to me in session, she said, well, how much of it is yours? And I went, how much? What do you mean, how much of it is mine? She said, just sit with it. How much of it is yours? And I really sat with it. And in that moment, I realized oh, these aren't my thoughts. And that's when I really started to go through my own ancestral healing process, because they ended up being the thoughts of one of my ancestors who wasn't well. So that's usually how people come to this work, is something they're experiencing in their own life that they're finding challenging, and their sense is that it's ancestral, or they just done a lot of different kind of work that isn't addressing the problem, and they find some resonance in the ancestral healing work, that it might be the tool that finally supports them.
Yeah, I have to say that when our friend and soul sister love, I have claimed her as my godmother, Tony Dunton Butler suggested that I contact you last March when I was feeling that my woman line, those are the women in my, for those that may not know, that's what I call my female ancestors, that they were trying to tell me something, and I had a connection with them, and had a connection and nurtured it over years, but whatever the message was, it wasn't getting through, and I was just beyond frustrated. And so you helped me tap into a deeper part of myself, which was really to allow the loving, wise, and well ancestors to work on my behalf. And one of the things that I tell people repeatedly when they're calling on their ancestors, because this is one of the key aha moments and nuggets that I have received from our work together, is you reminding me that you can't call on all ancestors. You have to call on the well ones, the loving ones, the ones that can and want to work on your behalf. And at 57, when you told me that last March, I was like, what the?
Yeah.
No wonder. I've been calling on the ancestors, but I've been inviting everybody in.
Everybody to the party.
Everybody to the party. So there was no way I could get the message, you know, from my woman line, the well ones, because the unwell ones were blocking. You know, there was some stuff going on that I didn't even know, you know, about, and don't need to know. And so we were able to come together to help me get to a place of stillness, and also in allowing myself to be open, not to have to act, to know that they were proud of me. They are right here with me. They are trying to put things together for me on my behalf with Creator. They're working, but I'm getting in their way. So sit your ass down. So that's basically what they were saying. And it was in all areas of my life that I was concerned about, both my career, in my business, in my relationships, in my health, my home. It was like, stop, slow it all the way down, little sister. You know, that was the message. And so that right there set the tone for the rest of my 2022. And I learned a deeper meaning of what I say, be soft as fuck with yourself. Can you tell folks, what is it that, and everybody, this is just a real live podcast. My neighbors are the fire station, and I was trying to mute, but I'm talking. So, you know, we gonna get the fire station. You might get the po-po or the police.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you support your clients, like, without giving away all the secret sauce? Not that it's secret, but how do you support someone? Like, I'll give myself as an example. This fall, I was bombarded with messages and information and ancestors showing up. Y'all, it was the ancestors of African descent, the indigenous people, the white folks. It was everybody. And it was the white folks that were coming through, and they were coming through all the way back to like 1500s. And I was guided to ancestry.com, and all of this information was pouring forth. And I was like, okay, I knew enough to be able to say, look, y'all got to go. Mm-hmm. All y'all that had something to do with colonization, slavery, that have hurt the land and my people in any way, y'all got to go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I reached out to you because I realized that whatever was happening, I could not handle, on my own. So I didn't even know what was going to happen. I just knew I needed to call you, the soul surgeon.
Yeah.
So feel free to share from my experience, because I really want folks to know, like, how does this work when you have a situation like me? It's not a hypothetical, because it's actually, what we're doing together now.
Right. Yeah. I think what you're sharing here is the key, probably number one thing people need to know and understand. So as you named, it's growing in understanding and interest, people wanting to engage with their ancestors, especially when we talk about Black folks and colonized folks, wanting to reclaim those relationships that, as a result of colonization and enslavement, that we've lost or forgotten. And so many people are wanting to engage their ancestors, wanting to call on their ancestors. But what you first have to understand, especially when we talk about Black folks who are descendants of the Atlantic slave trade, for many of us, our enslavers are our ancestors as well, unfortunately, right? Those who colonized us are often our ancestors as well, unfortunately. And so when you're calling on them and you don't call on them with any type of particularity, you are calling on all of your ancestors. And so the process that I provide and support people with is, one, a process that creates a container of ritual safety. So you can begin to learn what are the steps by which I ground myself, connect in a well way to the ancestors, to the well ones, right? And engage those ones in my life. Whether, if that's the only thing you learn, and it's what we learn in our first sessions together. And I have some people who work with me, that's the one thing that they learn and they never come back. Not because they're not interested in the work, but because that is the one thing that I want people to walk away with understanding, is that if you're going to engage your ancestors, it's really, really important that you know how to ground yourself in a well way, that you know how to call in trusted support that isn't just the ancestors. So when you want to roll up, right, for many of us, we ain't talked to our ancestors in a long time. So it's like rolling up in a neighborhood you ain't familiar with, and you just gonna go knocking on doors. Like, like that ain't how we supposed to roll. So you at least want to bring some trusted support. It isn't the ancestors. So if you're gonna go knocking on doors, you got somebody to help you out, right? And so in our work together, I know for you, Ananda, it's a lot of the Orishas that support you in your life and your experience. You call on them to support you as you begin your work with the ancestors. So that's the first thing that this work is really offering to folks, is a process and a framework, as you named, for understanding all of our ancestors aren't equally well, and that's okay, right? But we can connect with the well ones, and here's how you do it, right? Mm-hmm. Following that, then, it's a step-by-step process that folks are guided through, that I guide folks through, to connect with ancestral guide on their lineage, and to invite that ancestral guide to bring healing to the unwellness on that lineage, right? Because as you named, as long as there's unwellness on your lineage, it can serve as a block to the blessings that your ancestors are really trying to bring to you. And our unwell ones on our lineage in spirit, they're not always trying to be a block. But it's just like amongst us of the living. We all have different levels of wellness. Sometimes our wellness changes throughout our life and from moment to moment. And when that happens, there are ways that we can block our own blessings, block other people's blessings unintentionally. So the same thing happens in spirits. And so this process that I guide folks through helps them to get a sense of how well are their lineages right now in spirit, and then connect with ancestral guide on one of their lineages to bring healing to those who are unwell in spirit, so that they can experience then the fullness of the blessings and relationship in a safe way with their ancestors that is available to them. So that's the short version of the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that the process that you use in helping folks to ground themselves, once the unwell ancestors have been placed in a container of care and prayer and for healing, and there's that release. And for me, I felt this spaciousness, and my ancestors have always spoken to me through my intuition, through messages that I may see if I'm walking somewhere, reading something, hearing something, music. It's a variety of ways. The guides, the folks that have been conducting the healing on my behalf or standing in on my behalf when I may get afraid, the Orisha or the daughter or the son of, because they've been showing up, they appear in my artwork. And that's been something that it is just mind-blowing how they show up. And when they do show up, now I know what the process is. I was like, okay, so this is how y'all gonna come. What it does is that it lets me feel a deeper level of trust in who I am and whose I am. And for Jamari and I, we both believe in a creator. I believe in spirit guides, master teachers, and angels, and my loving, wise, and well ancestors. And that's my way, y'all. When I say loving, wise, and well, the LWW, that's my way of making sure that I'm calling on the right ones. Because I've lived 57 years. I lived 30 years actively calling from 27 to 57, calling on everyone. And that's not to say that I want to diss my unwell ancestors, because this whole process, what it does is it allows our ancestors to rest in peace and power. It restores them. You're not only healing yourself, you're actively participating in the healing process of the ancestors, the unwell ones, and you're allowing the well ones to support and serve us all. So talk about this power that you experience through this process in your lineage. You tell us, or you tell me in the sessions, that you are healing XYZ generations ahead and XYZ generations that came before you. And so what is it that could really excite or get folks, I don't know if I'm asking the right question, get people focused on, you're not just doing this work for yourself, you're doing it for your line.
Yeah. Well, I think you started to answer that question.
Oh, okay.
But no, in a really beautiful way. I was really appreciating what you were saying, because Just why I love when podcasts are conversational,
Mhm.
and not just interviews, right?
Yeah.
And because when you really think, you sit and think about it, I mean, we often, in sort of popular culture where we do talk about our ancestors, there is this kind of, just immediate elevation of them, right? They have the wisdom, they have the power, they have the knowledge, and that's true. And what that also does to us, to them, to all of us, is not create that space for the ways in which our ancestors in spirit are hurting, that they're still grieving, because one of the underpinning tenets of this work is that consciousness continues after death. That's how we can talk about the ancestors, right? But that just because we die doesn't mean that all that we experience just gets wiped away and now we're fine, right? That we carry that with us. And so our ancestors who have experienced all kinds of lives in the same way that we have, all kinds of trauma, violence, pain, struggle, grief, might be carrying that still with them. And they want to support our lives. They want to be well and benevolent. They want to be that ancestor you call on to bring them blessing and power, but they're struggling, you know? And this process provides a container where the elders can come to them and say, we see you, we see your pain, we see what you've been holding. And like you said, we want to offer a place for you to rest and be restored so that you can elevate to the position in which you're supposed to be in as an ancestor. And so it's really an opportunity to initiate, because that's what I think of it as a living person. When you step forward to participate in this process, you're showing up as an initiator in the process, and supporting that call in from the well ones to begin that work with those who are unwell. So when you show up to initiate this process with your people, you're showing up to offer an opportunity for ancestors to grieve, to mourn, to wail, to be cleansed, to be supported. And it's one of the most beautiful things I get to witness it every day, but if you never witnessed it, watching people go through that process with their people, it's one of the most beautiful things to imagine, right? Imagining your ancestors, the ones we do elevate all the time, having an opportunity to lay their burdens down, right? And have their burdens and wounds be really tended to. And it's through that process that then the body of wellness that we then are able to call on with confidence that they're well grows and expands, and you have greater access to. And your people they're always so grateful, because many of them have been calling out and wanting support, right? They've been praying for you in that way, the same way you've been praying for them. So you're answering the prayers of your ancestors when you show up in this work, which is a powerful thing to think about, and to honor the power in you to be able to initiate, to say there are ancestors calling out to me in their pain and their grief, and there's something I can actually do to support them. And as you name, you don't even actually have to do the work. You just got to show up to the session, right? But it's the well ones and the elders who will actually then take that baton from you and really meet those unwell ancestors and support them in their healing and growth. So I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
I was so
You did.
inspired by what you said.
I think, I don't even know if it was a question anymore. I think it was a part of this, like you said, it's a part of the conversation, and it's unfolding as it should. And so I'm just trusting the flow. I will say this. I remember going to therapy for the first time back in the late 90s, and my therapist said to me, because I was I was laid across the altar of an AME. If you're in DC, the old Metropolitan AME church. And I was like, why is this happening? And she was like, let's go to the altar. And I actually laid across that altar, the altar floor, not on top of the altar, y'all. And just let it all out. Cussed, fussed, screamed, you know, all of it. And when we got back to her office, she asked me, how do you feel? And I said, I feel like I've released something. And she said, well, you believe in your ancestors, you know that they work on your behalf. You have left it with spirit, Jesus, the angels, whoever you know, the ancestors, the spirit guides, master teachers, all of my people. She said, and now they can work on your behalf because you have gotten, you hit rock bottom, and now you calling out and they can hear you, and it's genuine. You know, it's not just, you know, I'm gonna call on my ancestors. And so one thing that she reminded me during that process is that when one person in the family line heals, it opens up space for others too. You may never know or see it, and you don't need to. You just know that you have opened up that line, that space, so healing can come through. And the same is true of this type of healing, everyone. Ancestral healing is an opportunity to affect change in your family, your immediate family, your extended family, anyone who is connected to you. It's amazing. I am quietly watching and seeing, you know, some relatives and just noticing some shifts in them, and not saying anything, but just noticing shifts, you know, when you talk to people or you hear them, or even in what they post online, but just seeing some shifts, and or in our exchanges, just noticing a different level of I call it spaciousness. And when I think about that, I don't try to take responsibility for it. I just say, wow, the loving, wise, and well ancestors are working on our behalf. It's not an ego thing. It's just like, wow.
That's one of my favorite experiences being a part of this work, is hearing folks report back specifically around the impact the work is having in their family. And I have so many testimonies from folks speaking about, wow, this relationship I never thought would change is shifting, right? This problem I never thought would be addressed is being addressed. And, you know, people often will ask, one of the first things they'll ask me when coming to this work is, you know, how do I know I'm not making this all up, right? Because it's a ritual container. I hold this space, guide the space, but it's you connecting with your ancestors, right? It's you telling me what's going on, what's happening, what they saying, right? And so I do have actual gifts and abilities where I can see spirit and I can talk to ancestors, but I actually do not utilize those gifts in my ancestral healing work, because it's about your relationship with the ancestors, not Jamari's relationship with your ancestors. And so people will often ask, well, how do I know I'm not making this up? I'm not just seeing what I want to see, hearing what I want to hear. And, you know, there's a couple ways to think about it. One, I often will say, well, you know, if you were going to make it up, would you make it up the way it happened? And everyone, of course, is like, nah, I wouldn't have made it up like that. Okay, then. The other thing is, I can kind of like geek out on, you know, science and all those kinds of things. So if you're a geek like me, I encourage you to go and look up actually the science of imagination, right? And kind of theoretically, because a lot of it is theory, you know, you've got to actually go out and proving those kind of things, especially when it relates to the brain, can be kind of hard, because you can't just go experimenting on folks' brains. But the ideas that they have around how imagination works, and you can look it up on YouTube, but one of the things I find really interesting is, and this is going to be the, you know, the can you explain it to a 4-year-old version of it, right? How imagination works is, let's say I told everyone right now listening to imagine a neon green elephant, right? You got it in your mind, you can see the neon green elephant. Now, it's safe to say probably no one has actually seen a neon green elephant in real life. So we're all imagining it, right? Never actually seen it, never touched one. So it's in our imagination. In order for the brain to actually formulate a neon green elephant for us to be able to see it, it actually has to pool sort of the brain's mapping of an elephant, which most of us have seen or seen a picture of, and then our mapping of the color neon green, which probably comes from our color memory of having also seen that before, and sort of reconfigure them in its own new map to formulate a neon green elephant. So essentially, and that's how we imagine anything. So essentially, when we imagine something, there has to be some pool from some source from in the past from which our brain has mapped it at some point, right? Now, one might then ask, how do we imagine things that we truly have never seen? There are no components that we can pull together. Well, I would say that the source of those things is source, right? Is spirit. Now, Western science might not acknowledge that as a source, but I believe it to be a real source. So when you're pulling to create something in your imagination that you about the ancestors, and you never engaged the ancestors before, you never engaged what they're talking about, you're actually pulling from source. In that way, one could say there's no way for you to make it up the way we think of just making things up. It has to actually come from somewhere for your brain to even allow you to imagine it. So that's the other thing I will share with people. And then the last thing I always say to people is, let's just see what the impact is on your life, right? If this is total BS, this is bullshit. If Jamari is a phony and he's making it up, and you a phony and you making it up, then it will have absolutely no impact on your life, the work we're doing, right? But if it has impact on your life, something is going on. And even if it's placebo effect, I'm gonna keep taking my sugar pill, because it's healing relationships in my family. It's shifting things in myself. It's giving me new vision, direction, confidence, courage in life. It's elevating my experience here in this world. It's providing provision and resources for what I'm trying to do. And listen, if you're gonna say no to all of that because it's sugar pill, I don't know. Sign up with Ananda and let her help you out, because you got some other stuff going on.
all that. I co-sign all of that. And I want to turn it on you in terms of how you take action in serving through your living with the support of your loving, wise, and well ancestors. What steps do you take in order to, show up as you, as a soul surgeon, as a soul steward? Founder, soul stewards founder.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first it really begins with how I got here in the first place. I really, like I said, I wasn't one of those people who was born saying, oh my gosh, I can hear voices, I can see dead people. I wasn't that. I was regular, schmegular, Midwestern boy, like that Baptist, Black missionary Baptist. That was my upbringing. And so, but when I started to experience my own dis-ease on a soul level, and I do say it was on a soul level because like I said, I was a therapist and social worker at the time. I knew what to do to deal with depression. I thought I knew, let me say that, what to do to deal with depression and all of that kind of stuff. And I was doing it and it wasn't helping. the pain that I was in was just so deep. Nothing I was doing, no one I was talking to was helping. And so when, I was laid out on my kitchen floor, crying, boo-hooing, snotting, just wanting relief from what I was experiencing. And God led me to this year of meditation and prayer. Because I really just asked God, I said, the way I'm living my life ain't working. I'm miserable, right? And if I keep going down this route, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to take myself up out of here. And so I said, God, if you got something better for me, please, bring it forth. And, my prayer was, if everything must go, then go. If everything must go, then go. And things started to go. And so it was just me and God. And in that time, I really, really deeply was inviting God's spirit to heal me on a deep level. I wanted to test it. Folks had told me, that religion can't save you, can't help you, you need to see a therapist. Well, I was a therapist and I had done that, and it wasn't helping me in my life. Not that y'all shouldn't go to therapy. Please go. Please go. But it wasn't supporting me at the level of pain I was experiencing. And so I was like, well, let me test God. Let me see what God can really do and if God can heal me. And so I really started inviting in God and Spirit's presence. And so I wasn't looking to find these gifts. I wasn't looking to talk to the ancestors. I wasn't even looking to be a healer, although, of course, I was healing at that point as a mental health therapist. I was really looking just to heal myself. And in that, I built a deep relationship with Spirit that was just based on deep surrender. I mean, just complete surrender. It's not working my way. What is your way? And I would say it's that guides me and grounds me through all of my service. Every step that I've taken since that point has been a step that God, the ancestors, Spirit, my master teachers, all of that, because I'm down with all of them too, have guided me to that point. And I've been very intentional about not going ahead, not pushing for what I see other people doing, just really staying focused on that relationship, because it's that relationship that healed me. So it's that relationship that I trust to guide me in this process and in this work as I work with other people who are seeking healing for their own souls, the same way that I experienced, with the help of Spirit, with the help of ancestors, with the help and wisdom of the earth. So, on a daily basis, that looks like a lot of things. And sometimes people will ask me, Jamari, how do you do what you do? You work with all these people and all those things. And one of my favorite master teachers is an indigenous healer, Frank Fool's Crow. And he said to someone who asked him a similar question, anyone can do what I do if they're willing to live the life that I live. And I feel that way. Like I said, maybe I was born this way. I don't remember if I was, right? I didn't grow up with these gifts, but I believe everybody can be in deep relationship with Spirit. Everybody can hear the guidance from Spirit that is for them. Everyone can see the Spirit, the heaven that is for them, that is meant for them to birth and be a part of on this earth. Everyone can be connected and hear clearly the wisdom of their ancestors. But you have to be willing to be in that deep relationship. And I live in that deep relationship every day. And there's things I've had to sacrifice in order to be in that relationship. There's things that I have had to, relationships I've had to let go of. And then just a daily practice of checking in, of meditating. And again, that's my people's medicine. Your people's medicine for what your discipline should look like might be different from mine, which is another reason why you have to do the work of really connecting with your people so you can hear what is the medicine that's for you, that's going to transform your life and support you if you're a spiritual healer or leader or worker as you go out and you live in service to the world. So, yeah.
Yes. And Yes. I really like that took care of like a number of my intentions in terms of wanting the full breadth of of um of you here in a little way, because we don't have 10 million light years. And that wouldn't even be enough, to capture what it is that you are and how you are helping the rest of us that come on your path, and even those that may be connected to us. They don't even realize that they have been touched by your essence. And the thing that I love most about the work that you do is how you empower the people that you work with. I know 3 people, including myself. I'm the third, that have been impacted by working with you. And what I see is a level of not only groundedness, but courage. You mentioned it, confidence, this knowing, a deeper knowing. You have facilitated a process for us to get what we need. You have empowered us in terms of doing the work. You're right there holding a hand in some instances. In others, you just like, look, I'm here. You're gonna have to go. I walk you to the door, but you're gonna have to open that door, and I'm not going in with you because it's not for me to do. And I think what you said, surrender, is that is a reoccurring lifelong journey for me. And just when you think you've done, it's like, whoa, I've gone deep. There's so much more. I mean, that's so much more. Yeah, that's been my experience. And in the last year, and being in community with you and doing healing work with you, what I have been able to do is soften my capacity to surrender. That there's the resistance level is not as great as it had been. And even in me doing it, because I know I'm gonna surrender at some point, because I just have too many decades of memories of not.
Right.
Like, well, we're just gonna jump, even if we're not feeling this at all, but I'm gonna jump.
Right.
Or I'm gonna walk through that door, but I'm gonna be like as I walk. I mean, that's part of the process. That's part of the process. That's the experience for that time. But what I will say is that there is a greater sense of knowing and trusting that in surrendering, it is working in my highest and greatest good. I can say that, I can write it, I can speak it, sing it, chant it, but there's this knowing. There's a knowing that has always been there, and it's come up, but there's a consistency now that I'm starting to see, and that helps me when I get into the moments of spending just a little bit too much time online, and I get caught up in the comparison game of social media, and I begin to forget that I have my own medicine, I have my own path. But because I see a peer, or I see someone that I look to as a mentor doing something, and it's related to what I'm doing, or I think in my mind, I should do that. No, your ass shouldn't. I mean, there's a process by which I use, to know if it's for me. Some stuff is, some stuff isn't, but there's a discernment process. And a lot of times, 96% of the time that I see stuff, and I'll be like, oh, you should do it. Nah, boo, you shouldn't. Sit your ass down.
Right.
And so one of the things that you were talking about on one of your IGs, you were just sharing some golden nuggets, and it was the use of technology and understanding the followers. And it went right into this thought that the loving, wise, and well ancestors, creator, all my people gave me. I don't know if it was last year or year before, but sometime during the pandemic, the years are starting to run together. Sacred media instead of social media. And everybody, I've been online since 1995, and I worked in digital communications, and I use it. I'm really good. It's a natural gift. I'm starting to see my connection to my Orisha Ogun and the technology, and starting to, embrace it. However, during the pandemic, I fell into what a lot of people have and continue to, that social media became, and technology, the time online became my lifeline. Because of the fears that I was having. It kept me connected to community, to information, but I wigged myself the fuck out, and I am now unraveling that that addiction, if you will, to the technology. And I go ups and downs. I'm in recovery. I go up and down, up and down. But that thing about the followers, can you tell folks what I'm getting at? Like, what made you start talking about the followers? And
yeah. Well, first of all, just thank you for what you shared around encouraging and empowering you all and the folks that I work with. I feel very humbled by that, because at the core, that's what I believe and understand is, I'm a healer, but people heal themselves. People have the power and the capacity to heal themselves with the support of spirit. When you have source, there's nothing you can't do. And so my goal is always thinking about, how do I help people heal their relationship with source? So no matter what they're experiencing, they can heal themselves. I'm not interested in having people be dependent on Jamari. I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like a client who had to come to me over and over again for the same issue that never gets addressed. Some people want that because it keeps them making money. That to me is an indicator I'm not doing my role here sufficiently. If the people I work with don't feel empowered and supported to continue their growth and healing in their own ways, or with the next healer that takes them to the next level. So it just is so affirming and humbling to hear that be reflected, the sense of empowerment and confidence that you all feel and that you witness with folks I work with, being able to stand in, because that's exactly what I want and what I know spirit wants through me. So I just want to acknowledge that first. So thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, I think it's a great segue, because all is spirit. And in my world, for some people, spirit is the thing you take out on Tuesday, right? But in my world, spirit is 24/7 all the time. Everything is that. Everything spirit, everything is also material. There's no real binary. And so when we talk about technology, it's the same thing, right? What's the conversation we're having about the spiritual, the ancestors, and technology? I don't even quite remember what made me start talking on IG about this. Probably some of my own thoughts, because just like you, I'm a human, y'all, everybody. Like we talk about these things, spirit things, and soul surgeon. Jamari is also a human being, right? And so all the things folks are navigating, I navigate too. So I was probably thinking about my own process in relationship with social media, and was really just thinking about what does it mean to have followers, and in particular, now it's all coming back to me. I had shared about a project that I'm launching Spiritual Warriors Advocating for Youth, which is going to be a leadership development program for adult leaders who support Black youth in communities to train them on spiritual health and healing and how to leverage spirituality to support and elevate youth serving systems. And I had sent out an email about that work and getting interest and seeking funding for that work. And I got so many beautiful replies. And it was just making me reflect on the richness of those relationships, those connections, and also making me think about folks that I know who have 20, 30, 40,000 followers, folks that I've seen online, and they have 50,000 followers, but then they're posting about being frustrated that nobody will buy their services, right? 50,000 people following you, but still living in frustration, right, around actual interest in your work. And, I also support lots of healers, spiritual leaders, and all of them range in terms of, quote, popularity, followers on social media. And I have to say that the social media presence has never been, for me, in working with these folks, an indicator of how well they feel like they're doing in their work, their sense of confidence in their work, not even necessarily the kind of money they're making in their work, because lots of people can have lots of followers and be very broke, y'all. So, don't get it twisted and think, 50K followers means 50K a month. That don't translate like that, right? And so I started to really think about what does stand out to me about the people that I work with that ties them all together. If it's not social media or popularity, I have clients who aren't even on social media, right? What is it that makes them people who are growing, healing, powerful, potent healers and leaders in their community, wise and full of medicine? And what I notice about them, it's not the followers that they have, it's who they're following, right? And by who they're following, again, I don't mean on social media. I mean who they're following in life, the spirit, the ancestors, the source that they're following. And that's what ties them together. They're deeply rooted people committed to following the guidance of spirit in everything that they do. And that is what sets them apart in terms of internal success, in terms of spiritual success, in terms of relational success, in terms of material success, in the ways that they define it and their people define it. So, it's important, I think, as people engage social media to be really reflective about that, reflective about how much we obsess over followings and things like that. Meanwhile, we're just lost in the wind, right? Following trends, following, what you saw or heard such and such say or do when you don't even know nothing about such and such life and what it really looks like, right? And so you have to ask yourself, who's giving you guidance and direction for utilizing these tools, right? And if it isn't the guidance and direction that grounds you, that roots you, then more likely than not, it's the type of guidance and direction that's going to steer you in the wrong direction, even if it means you got 50K followers. So I think that's what I was talking about on there. And
yeah, it was, and a little more. And why I wanted to share this, especially as we move into a new season, if you're following the astrological calendar like I do, the new year is Aries season. And the thing that I'm focusing on with Aries season is Aries is an energy, it's a fire energy, and it's about taking action. Mm-hmm. And there's many ways to take action. And the first and foremost way for me to take action, and what I recommend to clients and folks in the Thriving Mindfully Academy and folks that are following me in different ways, is to go within and seek the guidance of whatever you want to call your higher power, your intuition, the loving, wise, and well ancestors, our people like Jamari, the spirit guides and master teachers, the angels, to go within first to get support for taking action. Because we can do so much when we invite that power, that energy that surrounds us in, that wisdom. We can do so much more. We're not alone. And oftentimes, I know for myself in the past, when I look back at my life, there have been times where I thought I was acting on my own and I wasn't. Because if I was, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Because my stuff, they of course corrected me on many occasions, all the time. And so taking action, the first step that we can take is by having that deep relationship that Jamari's been talking about with spirit. And I know for myself, this is a work in process with me in terms of transitioning from social media to sacred media. I'm really paying attention. I've been paying attention for the last several years about asking myself, I don't always do this, y'all, so let me be honest, but asking myself when I'm aware, are you sharing from a place of sacredness? Are you sharing from a place of, is this what really you feel deeply in yourself? Is this something that needs to get out? Do you need to share this? It's like this morning I was at the gym and it was day 4 of me being back at the gym, because I started the year paying a membership and paying January, February, and most of March. And I decided last week that it was time for me to go back. It's part of, who I am as a human being. And so I was doing my planks, and I'm really proud. I'm 58. I can do a minute plank,
Listen, that's worth celebrating.
Wait a minute, look.
Planks ain't no joke.
7:50, almost 8 o'clock, and I'm on plank number 2, and I'm feeling myself. So
come on.
The digital communications professional inside of me says, let's make a video. So I made the videos. I made like 2. And then while I was, I finished and I was in child's pose, giving myself Reiki. That's part of my process, y'all. I'm in there in the room all by myself. And I said to myself, now what's the purpose of these videos? Is this really, what are you doing? Like, what is it? And I didn't feel anything. And I said, let's erase them. Let's delete them. This is not sacred media. Not that they couldn't be.
Right.
But it was like there was nothing there. It was just all ego, And there was no message attached to it,
Right.
And so that was one of my mindful technology moments, if you will, in terms of looking at, am I responding or acting in a way that is in alignment with what is within me and my relationship with the ancestors, the loving, wise, and well ancestors. I mean, I know that Ogun is in my life, and I got all those groovy things going on in my head, but is it in alignment with what's inside?
Yeah. And is it meeting the underlying need that's there? Because as you named, all of us, even before the pandemic, but certainly during it, have had, these kind of, I want to say addictive, but for some people that might be addictive relationships with social media, but just an unhealthy relationship dynamic on social media. And what makes it unhealthy, quote unquote, is the fact that typically what's happening is we're reaching out to social media to meet some need that we have that would probably be best served being met in another way, because as we all know, social media can have a lot of negative consequences, whether it's the kind of folks you're interacting with or just how much time we're spending on a looking at a screen and all of that stuff. And so we can make a choice to meet that need in another way that doesn't have those negative impacts. Of course, we want to be able to make that if we can. And so because we are all working through healing, hopefully, or at least we're starting to, with this conversation, our relationship to social media, we have to understand that there are needs that we have been conditioning ourselves to get met through social media. And so then it's going to be a part of the process of releasing that relationship and reforming it, right, into one that looks sacred, is also taking a moment to think of, okay, what do I need in this moment that I was about to go and try and get from social media, right? And I do this for myself as well. And I recognize, in the moment of like, oh, I wanted somebody to celebrate me. Like you said, I just went to the gym, I put in work, okay? And I want to feel some celebration, some congratulations, some validation, right? And that is an important need, right? Like that's a sacred need that you have, that we all have. And so at that point, we can think about, okay, what are other ways I can have that need be fulfilled? And one of the things, which is why my relationship with spirit, is so important to me, is I learned through my relationship with spirit the ways that source can really give me all things. And I don't mean that in hyperbole. I don't mean that as as the right thing to say. I mean, God has shown me some shit. And so I know that if there's a moment where I really want to feel celebrated, that I have a relationship with spirit such that I can really go into a deep place with spirit and viscerally feel that celebration that I need. If nobody else in the world can give it to me, if there's nobody I can call in that moment, spirit can offer that to me. And for me, I believe that that is a relationship that everyone has access to and should have, because life is hard out here. And everyone can't always show up the way we need. Everyone can't always give us what we need. And yes, we want good people who can support us. We can't be by ourselves. This is not a go be hyper independent and all you need is God conversation. It's not. You need people too. And you definitely need source. So I think a part of healing that relationship that we have with social media and making it sacred is also taking the time to really be with the needs that are coming up. And when those needs come up, taking them to the sacred, taking them to source to help us to get those needs met.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also want to say to people that social media has been sacred media for me, because messages have come through me scrolling, especially in the middle of the night. I can remember, and this isn't too far from me in thinking about it, but even last week, just scrolling along and a message popped up. And it was the word for me. It was just like, yes. This was it. Yeah. Or watching, just going to see what you had posted and finding that and how it touched me. And I was like, yes, this is it. So there's a way to practice digital wellness by looking at being mindful about what we're taking in, to do it in healthy, mindful, and intentional ways that support us. And everyone has a different way of that being, and it's different at different times. You got to give yourself space and grace for things. And as we navigate this life that we are all living, because our lives have changed, And there's, we don't have enough hours to talk about all of the changes that have occurred in the last 3 years and the impact of it. We're still unpacking it, and we're still noticing the shifts and the things that have happened to us. But to give yourself space and grace, you know, to do the best you can where you are. And if this all resonates with you, I want to encourage you all as you move into the spring season, or maybe if you listen to this during the summer or the winter or the fall, whenever, as you move into the next moment and the next day, to really believe that you have the support. All you got to do, and when I say all you got to do is make a decision to find what is deep inside of you. That's it. Make a decision to find, because I think once you make that decision, everything rushes towards you that you need. It's already there. Whatever you want to call that energy, make a decision when you are ready and you are called to. Once you make that decision, you can call it surrender. You can call it intention. You can call it prayer, whatever it is. Once you do that, you'll begin to take action that is supported by Creator, whatever you call the energies, the loving, wise, and well ancestors. And so today is tonight for us. But tonight, my prayer is that you walk away with what you need. And if tonight we were only talking so that you could refer someone else to this podcast, maybe it wasn't for you. It's okay too. Whatever it is that you feel called to do with the information that was shared, rock on with your bad self, and bad meaning good, you know, because I trust that whoever listens to this conversation, they get what they need. They're gonna that is just how it works. And that's sacred media, y'all. It just gets passed on. That's sacred technology. Is you do what is before you when you have been called, whatever you want to call it. That's what I say. I know from working with Jamari Michael White, the founder of Soul Stewards, known as a soul surgeon. I know that with Jamari's support over the last year, I have gotten very clear about what my life's work is as I move into my second Saturn return. If you're into astrology, you know that. As I move into my human design energy type as a manifesting generator, as I move into the early stages of what it means to be a wise woman, a crone, an elder, I'm clear that my life's work is thriving mindfully. And so I want to thank you, Jamari, for being a guest. You're not a guest anymore. You're part of the Thriving Mindfully family.
Thank you.
Whenever you want to come back, you're welcome. You are welcome. And I want to close by you sharing any upcoming events and courses, things that you have going on. I know you mentioned one, and then where people can find this information and find you, both on Sacred Media and your website.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a couple of classes coming up. I often will host classes for folks who are spiritual coaches, spiritual healers, leaders. So I have a couple coming up. One is around utilizing ancestral wisdom and ancestral healing work with Black Christian communities. We know a lot of us are part of the Christian tradition. I am myself. And so how do we support, those folks to engage in ancestral practice where some might be weary or uncomfortable? So that's coming up. I have another 10-week long experience that I'm really excited about because it's really about my own sort of heart's desire, which is to be in community with folks who really want to learn, like, how do we live love? And it's rooted in Holy Scripture, But you don't have to be Christian to be a part of the space. Just have an appreciation for it, and have an appreciation for Jesus as one of many master teachers that we have available to us. So I'm excited about that. And there will always be more. I'm cooking up in the background. Just had a meeting about it today. A spiritual coaching course. So actually training folks in spiritual coaching. And then there's so much more. As I mentioned before, Spiritual Warriors Advocating for Youth is a program that I'm hoping to launch here soon. So you can find all of that at www.soulstewards.org, as well as more about my offering and resources to parents, to families, to communities, to organizations. You can also find more about my ancestral healing work at blackancestralhealing.com as well. And then you can find me on Instagram at Soul Stewards. That's it, at Soul Stewards on Instagram. And that's my guidance, Sacred Media. I'm only on Instagram. Sometimes I play around on LinkedIn. That's all I need. They've guided me to. So I look forward to connecting with all those who are listening and interested. And I just feel humbled to be a part of this space. I thank you so much, Ananda, for just your deep presence. I definitely understand why you've been in digital media and in that space, because you boss at it, for real. I just been admiring you in this whole conversation. So I'm glad that you're where you're supposed to be, doing the work that you are here to do. And I'm humbled so much to even to be able to have dipped a toe in your journey, truly. So thank you for having me. Thank you to the ancestors that have brought us all here and together. And just so much blessing and love to everybody just trying to figure out this thing called life. We in it together.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to close this conversation. Everybody, the show notes, or they call it a description in some places, will include all of Jamari's information. So you'll be able to reach him and follow him in his sacred media journey. And stay tuned for some more messages. I call them Ananda commercials instead of commercials.
I love that.
So stay tuned for the Ananda commercials. I wanted to give y'all a heads up in case you thought, well, if all you wanted was this, then you can stop the podcast now. But there's some Ananda commercials. You might say, damn, Ananda. And I'm going to be like, yeah, it's my podcast. I can have as many. You listen if you feel called to. All right. See you all next time. Spring is coming. Spring is coming. Spring is coming. If you're listening to this in March of 2023, spring is coming. Or maybe it's sprung by the time you've heard this. Let me tell you, the Thriving Mindfully Academy is getting ready to take action. We're preparing to take action. We're looking at how we can tap into our inner resources, how we can access what we've been given inside of ourselves with the support of our higher power, if you believe in a higher power, our loving, wise, and well ancestors, our spirit guides, master teachers, and angels, if you tap into all of that. For me, it's also my Yoruba Orisha. So I bring all of those spiritual entities into my source of how I'm able to prepare and to take action as this new season enters into our lives. I want to invite you, if you're in the DC area, to come to the Thriving Mindfully Academy's Soft as Fuck session on March 26th from 2 to 3 p.m. at Key Kratom CBDT, 1517 U Street, Northwest in DC. The investment is $23. You can go to anandaleeke.com/soft. It is an afternoon of meditation, reflection, some sound healing with yours truly, my Koshi chimes, my ocean drum, my sound bowls will make an appearance to help get us grounded in our meditation. It is an invitation to journal, to set intentions, and to share if you feel called to in a safe community. We're looking at how we can prepare and take action as we move into the spring season. The spring equinox is on March the 20th, and we're meeting on the 26th of March to welcome the spring and to look at how we can prepare and take action from the inside out. So join me. Can you believe that we are in 2023, that we moved through the pandemic in 2020, 2021, 2022? If you're like me, the COVID-19 pandemic changed how you lived, how you communicated, how you learned, how you worked, how you shopped, how you played, how you did business in the world. So much has happened since then. So much continues to happen. One of the best ways that you can move through these changes and more is to remind yourself that you matter, that you're worthy, that you are the most important person in your life. That's right. If you didn't know it, I'm here to tell you. You deserve to make yourself a priority. And one of the ways that you can take action to make yourself a priority is with a retreat. A retreat helps you carve out time and space and take responsibility for yourself. When you take responsibility for yourself, you begin to see your full self. Here's what happens when you get support during a retreat. You have someone like myself to hold space for you, to guide you in giving yourself an opportunity to take responsibility for identifying your vulnerabilities, your challenges, your wins, and your losses, and so much more. A retreat with support can also help you set intentions and create accountability, plans, and shifts, and how you choose to show up in your life, your relationships, your career, and your business. If this sounds like something that might be of interest to you, I want to invite you to the spring virtual retreat that I'm offering on 2 days in April. April 18th, which is a Tuesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then on Saturday, April 22nd, from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Your investment is $43. Now let me tell you, during the retreat, you're going to have a chance to get grounded with a mindful moment. That's deep breathing and a little mindful movement. I'm only inviting you to move your body in the way that works best for you. Also during the retreat, you'll be able to identify the areas that you need to take responsibility for in your life during the spring season, because spring starts in March and we have April, May, and June until we get to the first day of summer, the summer solstice, to explore how you can take responsibility for those areas in your life that are calling you now. You're going to get some support on how to take responsibility for yourself through wisdom that I'm pulling from you in an activity that is going to get you to contact your internal wisdom. You may get that internal wisdom from your higher power, from your ancestors. I'm going to share some wisdom about the season of spring, the moon, and astrology. Not saying that you have to take any of that in, but I'm giving it as a buffet of ways for you to take responsibility. You're going to experience a mini sound bath meditation performed by yours truly that will help you open your heart to embrace the fresh starts of the spring season, the new beginnings that spring brings. You're also going to participate in an intention setting and action planning series of exercises that invite you to reflect, to journal, and to draw. I'm asking folks to dress comfortably during this virtual retreat, to bring their favorite pens, pencils, colored pencils, crayons, magic marker, and paper to draw on if you feel like you might draw, and also a snack, because we'll be together for 90 minutes. A Zoom video link will be emailed to you once you register for the online retreat. You can go to anandaleeke.com/retreat to get more details. I will see you in the spring virtual retreat. One of the ways that I've been able to prepare myself and to take action from a grounded place in my body, in my breath, in my life is through human design. Human design is an amazing self-empowerment, and it's IN-POWERMENT, empowerment, because it's from the inside out. It's a self-empowerment and self-discovery tool that was introduced to me in 2021 through a coaching experience. And over the past 2 years, I have experimented with it and integrated it into my life, my relationships, and my career and my business. And it is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong experiment. I am now bringing it into a space where I'm offering it to folks like you to support you in preparing yourself and taking action in your life, your relationships, and your career and business. It marries my thriving mindfully, heart-centered approach to being present well in the real you. And I use it with my coaching clients. I use it with the Thriving Mindfully Academy members. And now I want to invite you to explore it with me as your human design doula. In human design, you are called to give birth, if you will, to yourself, the real you. And we do that every single day. We do it every single moment. We get 1,440 minutes each and every day. And in each minute, you're birthing yourself. I mean, you're always changing. You're always growing. And so in order to navigate that process, I'm here acting as a doula, someone who can midwife you through this experience, help you understand what human design is based on where you are in your life, help you take the parts of human design that resonate with you the most, because at different times, different things resonate with us, and help you understand it, help you see how you can use it as a tool to connect with your own body's awareness and wisdom. If you're interested, I want to invite you to visit my website. Go to anandaleeke.com/human design to learn more about how we can work together. I offer 2 types of readings. There's a basic reading, and then there's a more advanced reading once you have an understanding of human design. check it out. There's also a video that walks you through my own human design experience and gives you some basic information about human design. There are other podcast episodes for the Thriving Mindfully podcast that you can check out. Just go to anandaleeke.com/podcast, or wherever you find this podcast, you can look and see in the archive the human design episodes. So I look forward to connecting with you more about human design. Thanks for tuning in to the Thriving Mindfully podcast. If you're ready to be inspired and empowered with my coaching support, join me in the Thriving Mindfully Academy. Visit anandaleeke.com/academy. Now, if you're ready to dive deeper and move past your comfort zone with my one-on-one coaching program, book a discovery call with me today. Visit anandaleeke.com. If you need something juicy to read, check out my 3 mindfulness books: Love's Troubadours, a self-love and yoga-inspired novel; That Which Awakens Me, a mindful creativity memoir; and Digital Sisterhood, a mindful technology memoir. Go to anandaleeke.com/books. All of my books are available on Amazon.com. Well, that about wraps us up. And as I always like to say, may we all continue to embrace thriving mindfully in everything that we think, feel, say, and do. See you next time.